The Jacobs Ladder Show is the online radio show keeping you in the loop on the real Las Vegas entrepreneurs, business professionals, artists, actors, creators, entertainers, foreign embassy consuls, and personalities. Join us on the Jacobs Ladder Show with Carolyn and Stephen Jacobs, and listen in on the discussions with these Las Vegas leaders on personal stories and topics like exploits, ventures, anecdotes, career changes, and successes. Now, here's Carolyn and Stephen Jacobs.
And welcome to the show. This is Stephen Jacobs with the Jacobs Ladder Show, and we're here every Tuesday from noon until 2. We have one guest, 1 hour, and you can get us on JacobsLadderShow.com. This show, along with all of our shows for the last 6 months, will always be posted on that website. Just page down at the bottom and click on the show you like, and you can listen to it and or download it if you like. Okay, this segment is brought to you by the Las Vegas Distillery, the first distillery ever in Nevada, located at 733 East Gate Road, Suite 100 in Henderson, California, or Henderson, Nevada, California. Today I have a very interesting guest. I've looked forward to him being on the show, Mr. Frank Cullotta. He has written a brand new book now. His first one out was called just Cullotta, and he's written another new book here called Frank Cullotta, Hole in the Wall Gang in My Own Words. Frank, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So, Frank, you are now an author, but your life didn't start out that way. And so what I'd like to do is let's go back with the opening question that we have, and that is, where were you born?
Chicago, Illinois.
And you went. What did your dad do there?
My father was a thief, a crook. That's the only thing I know. I always was under the understanding as a child that he was in the fruit and vegetable business.
Right.
He was a peddler, in other words.
Right.
And but of course I found out a lot differently as I got older, and he got killed when I was 8 years old.
Okay. Was he a freelancer, or was he with the organized?
He knew all the outfit guys. He was freelance. He did fight the Black Hand when that was out, before the outfit even began.
Right.
In Chicago. And he killed a few of the Black Hand guys that laid these Black Hand things on your door, telling you that they wanted your money. And he helped a few people out. He offed a few people. When I say offed, that means he shot them.
Right. Just so that I bring our listening audience up, it's international. What is the Black Hand?
There were a bunch of greaseballs from Italy that had come to America, and they were muscling their own kind. They were threatening them, extorting them, little business owners and stuff like that, and telling them they want X amount of dollars in order to stay in business. And most Italian people that were here were afraid they would get hurt. They didn't want to become known as stew pigeons or whatever. So they just went along with these guys with this fear. They had this fear in them. And that's basically the way they were. So
this is the kind of the same organization that was portrayed in The Godfather when they go back to the early days.
Exactly, just like in The Godfather, the movie.
So then, what did your mom do?
My mother didn't do nothing. She was a stay-at-home wife, and she raised me and my sister. And then when my father died, he was killed in an automobile accident, my mother was 9 months pregnant with my brother.
Okay.
And then she took care of the three of us.
Okay. So what did your brother do?
My brother, well, he eventually became a barber. He went to barber school and became a barber. But prior to that, he looked up to me and he admired me. And one day he tried to do what I'd done in life, and he got caught. And I got him out of jail, and we fought the case, and he got probation. And he went legit after that. He became a barber.
Okay. And what happened to your sister? What did your sister do?
My sister was, I always say that she's from a different family, you know. She was always distant. She was basically a good girl. She worked all her life. And she got married I think she got married when she was 21 to a legitimate guy that wasn't from our neighborhood. And She left when she was like 21 or 22 with her husband.
So, so is your sister still with us, or is she?
No, she's still alive. I don't get along with her. She's in some kind of a rest home.
Okay.
She's 80 years old.
Back in Illinois?
Yes.
Back in Illinois. So when did you start your career, shall we say, in crime?
I always had, since I was probably 10 years old, I always had this passion to take things. And when I was 12 years old, I actually started stealing petty handy stuff. I used to rob the mail bags. At that time, they had, paper bags where people would buy their newspapers every morning.
Right.
And I used to climb up the pole and take the money out of the bag and run, every morning before I went to school. Until one day the guy was watching his bag, and he seen me climb up the pole, and he come running after me, and I took off. Well, that was the end of that. So then I became a shoe shine boy. And, of course, I got thrown out of school because I was always not going to school. I would rather hang in the park. And I became a shoe shine boy. And I used to shine shoes on the street in Chicago that was called Grand Avenue. It stretched from one side of the city to the suburbs.
Right.
And that's how I met this guy I grew up with named Tony Spilotro.
And that is the infamous Tony Spilotro that we've seen immortalized in the movie Casino, correct?
That's correct.
So how old were you when you two guys met?
12 years old.
12 years old.
Yeah.
Okay.
We had an argument in the middle of the street. He was telling me that this was his territory, and I told him, I don't see your name on no street sign. And a little pushing match back and forth. And then he said, well, I'll be back tomorrow, and if I see you on this street, I'm gonna hurt you. And I said, I'll be here. The following day I was there, and I didn't see him. And I didn't see him for approximately a week. And then the next time I seen him, he came up to me and he said, what was your father's first name? Because when we were doing this pushing back and forth, he did ask me my name, and I said Cullotta, Frank Cullotta. But he went home, and I guess he was talking to his brothers about it. He had 5 other brothers. And his father, whose name was Patsy, overheard the conversation. He heard the last name, and he said to Tony, find out if this Frank Cullotta's father was Joe Cullotta. Because if it was Joe Cullotta, you and him are going to need to be friends the rest of your life, because he saved my life from the black hand that were trying to muscle me in my restaurant. So the next time I seen Tony, he asked me that. And I said, why you asking? He said, well, I need to know. And I told him. And he said, well, my father told me that your father saved his life. And that's when we became friends.
Wow. That probably didn't see that one coming, did you?
No, absolutely. Absolutely. See, Tony was looked upon in the neighborhood, even at that age, as a tough guy. And he had a lot of following, people hanging with him, So with that happened, that just got me into a crew of guys, another group of guys.
Right. Now, at this time, these were just the street gangs, right?
Yeah,
the
local gangs.
Right.
We stuck together. We didn't have no name on our backs like,
right.
A certain name of club or anything. We're just a bunch of guys that hung together. Not everybody was a criminal.
Right.
There was a lot of legitimate guys that hung with us, but Tony and I were thieves, and we also went to the same schools and went to the same bad schools together. And we wound up in a school that was called Montefiore. It was on 14th and Halsted. It was the neighborhood we used to call it Jewtown, because all the Jews used to put their stuff out and sell their clothes on the street. And right down the street was a school called Montefiore. And if you were a bad kid in school, they would send you to the school, Montefiore. 95% of the school was black. Now imagine 2% white, 3% Hispanic, and the rest black. It was very difficult. We fought every day in that school because these people were very prejudiced. They thought every white man had money, or every kid had money, or was related to somebody with money. So we fought every day in the school with the blacks, until one day Tony and I and his brother Vic went back to the school, and we took one of the black kids, the ringleader, out of the cafeteria. Vic was Tony's older brother. and we pulled the guy in the car. We dragged him through the cafeteria in the car, and we pistol whipped him in the car, and told him what was going to happen to him if any more of these people jumped on us. Then we pull up to the schoolyard and flung him out of the car, just like in the movies, you know. So basically kept everybody away from us for a week until they regrouped, the blacks, and then they came after us again. And Tony, I happened to not be there at school that day, and Tony stabbed one of them. And I got blamed as well as Tony for the stabbing, and I wasn't there. And from there, Tony's father, for some reason, I don't know, was able to get Tony out on a hardship to say he was working in the restaurant for him. And I wound up going to Preno school. They sent me to Preno school. It's a school for bad boys.
Right. How long?
Which I spent, I think it was about 8 months there. There were cottages that young boys would stay in, and you had a lady and a man that ran the cottage, and you had a guy that would sleep there at night. He would sit in a chair, not sleep, and watch you in the dormitory while you slept at night, so there wouldn't be no fights or any rapes. In which there were always some kid was getting raped in there all the time. You know, it was a rough place. I mean, you had to be tough in order to survive in there.
So you were there for 8 months. How old were you when you got out of that?
Probably, I don't know, 14, I would say. No, 16.
16.
Yeah, and then I got in trouble again, and they sent me to St. Charles.
Okay, what's St. Charles?
St. Charles is another boys' school.
Okay.
It's just you're a little older when you get in there.
Okay.
Preno school is for younger kids under a certain age limit,
right.
And St. Charles you had to be over 16. But before I went to St. Charles, I had to go back to school, you know. So I did. I went back to the school called Cameron, and I had to get a grammar school diploma. So I was much older than the kids in school at that time. So they graduated me, and I had to come back the next day to get my diploma. I couldn't get it on the stage with the rest of the kids because I was too old compared to them. Sort of funny when you think about it.
So was it from there then you went to St. Charles? Or?
And then I went to St. Charles sometime after that.
Right.
I believe it was for a stolen car.
And how long did you spend in St. Charles?
9 months. A little over 9 months in St. Charles.
Was that just as tough as the...
It was tougher. But at that time, I had the experience of Preno school, so I knew how to work my way around the system. I knew who to hang with, who not to hang with. Of course, I did have fights with black kids in the school. I always won. And then I decided that I didn't want to stay in the same environment with them, and I seen a job that was coming up working in the powerhouse, they call it, where you furnish power for all the houses in there. So I had to go with the wheelbarrow full of coal. I had to work with the furnaces. But I liked it because I didn't have to live in these cottages, they call it. I lived in the powerhouse.
Oh, okay.
I had my own room in there, my own kitchen. It was wonderful. So being that you were away from home, it was like wonderful. So I spent 9 months in there.
So when you got out of there, what happened after you got out of that?
Well, I immediately hooked up with all my old friends again and started stealing again. And then I got in trouble again with some guy that I helped out, some kid that needed some help because he didn't have no money. And I took him on a score with us. And my friend Richard Gorman and myself, we got away. We had an automobile chase. He got caught, this kid that I wanted to help.
Right.
And he turned state. He beefed on me to the police.
Okay.
And I had a little connection at that time. I didn't. My family did with these politicians. And I was able to get the crime reduced from a felony to a misdemeanor. And then I did another 10 months in the House of Correction, which was, it was like 3 steps up from the other little places I was at. Now you had all adults in there, you know. And I spent the remainder of the 10 months in there and then got out. And then I went back to stealing again with Tony and everybody else that was stealing. I had a crew. And I don't want to mention the scores I did right now, but they're in my book.
Right.
one of the biggest scores I did as a kid at 18 years old. That would start out my second book.
And that's and this is the book, Frank Cullotta, Hole in the Wall Gang, in my own words. And where can they get this book, Frank?
Amazon.com or Houdini Press here in Las Vegas.
Okay. Frank, we're going to take a quick break here and get a word from our sponsors, and we're going to pick up right where we left off, okay?
That's great.
Okay, this is Stephen Jacobs with the Jacobs Ladder Show. You can hear us from noon to 2 every Tuesday and on JacobsLadderShow.com. We'll be right back in 2 and 2.
There's eating out and there's dining. Fine dining at the Barrymore. At the Barrymore, you dine on gourmet food in an elegant setting with outstanding service for a fraction of what you would expect. The Barrymore is located in the Royal Resort at 99 Convention Center Drive. You can experience the Barrymore Sunday through Thursday from 5:30 p.m. to 10 p.m. and on Friday and Saturday from 5:30 p.m. to 11 p.m. And on Friday and Saturday, there's live entertainment at the Barrymore. For reservations, call 702-407-5303. And if you really want to take a look at this elegant restaurant before you arrive, go to www.barrymorelv.com. That's www.barrymorelv.com. Barrymore's. It's more than eating out. It's dining.
Let me introduce you to the Las Vegas Distillery. It is the first artesian craft distillery in the history of Nevada. They manufacture in the traditional way from grain to bottle. Their handcrafted spirits include vodka, gin, rum, whiskey, bourbon, moonshine, and the house specialty created in Las Vegas called the Rumski, a blend of rum and whiskey. The Las Vegas Distillery uses grains grown in Nevada by Winnemucca Farms. They distill in small batches and are an open distillery. Come and take a tour Monday through Saturday at 7330 Eastgate Road, Suite number 100 in Henderson. You can go to their website, www.lasvegasdistillery.com. Support our local businesses. Remember the Las Vegas Distillery for your events, office, and private parties. Think local, drink local. The Las Vegas Distillery.
And welcome back to the Jacobs Ladder Show. This is Stephen Jacobs, and I'm here interviewing Tony Cullotta. By the way, Tony.
Right.
I'm sorry, Frank Cullotta. By the way, Frank, the Barrymore, which you just heard the commercial on, the Barrymore, you're going to have a book signing there on February the 1st. That's Saturday, starting at 5:30, correct?
That's correct.
And that's for his new book, Frank Cullotta, Hole in the Wall Gang. And as you know, the Barrymore has a great social hour there that starts at 5 o'clock and goes through $5 drink specials and $5 wine glasses and really half off appetizers and everything else. So you need to make sure you swing by the Barrymore at any time, but make sure you get there on Saturday, February the 1st. And my guest, Frank Cullotta, will be there with his Hole in the Wall, in my words, brand new book out, and you can have him autograph it there, which is pretty cool. So, Frank, we left off, and you had, I think you were like 18 now, 19, and you had gotten, you hooked back up with Tony.
Yeah, I hooked back up with Tony. But before that, I was doing a lot of armed robberies, mostly armed robberies, and I was with different guys that I was doing them with, and some of them turned out to be big syndicate guys in the outfit.
Right.
In later years. This is something they wanted to do or become, which I resisted pretty near all my life until I came to Vegas.
So
I wanted to be sort of like my father, an outsider, able to do what you wanted to do without answering to anybody.
Right.
But yet I had enough power to go to the outfit and do things, get things done,
Right.
as long as I pay tribute to them.
Right. So you actually didn't want to become part of the outfit,
Right.
so to keep your independence
That's
from
exactly
having
right.
to
There
be-
was one time that I did put money out on juice,
Right.
loan shark business with them. I did that for about a year, but I didn't. It was boring, and then you had to chase people around to get your money back, and I just didn't have the time for that nonsense.
So, what was your lifestyle?
Very flamboyant. I lived a good life with the money that I stole. 24 hours in a day, I had 24 hours in a day to spend that money.
Yeah.
If I was a working stiff, let's say, and I'd work 9 hours, I wouldn't, then the rest you stay at home with your wife and kids or whatever, and you don't spend as much money.
Right.
So I used to spend a lot of money, and I did a lot of cabaret nightlife, went out with a lot of women in my life, and had a great time. Had a lot of cars. I was known as a car buff. I probably had more cars than people got years on their life. I mean, new cars. I don't even want to count the old cars. I used to buy like 2-3 new cars a year. And one time they wrote me up in a paper as a guy that when the ashtrays got full he would trade his car in. Well, I didn't trade my car, and I made him disappear. Because when you buy a car, it's a bad investment.
Right.
You're not going to make any money on the car. They depreciate.
Right.
So I just used to make them disappear. And insurance companies start wondering, how come one guy can have so many cars stolen? And so they start taking pictures of my cars. So they would believe I did own these cars. And, you sort of smarten up the insurance companies through the years,
Right.
And, so my life was good. I used to wear all tailor-made clothes, get them made at tailors, tailor shops, and like everybody else that I hung with. And that's basically what happened as I was growing up.
Right. Did you ever invest in things like real estate or homes or anything?
Yes, I did. I owned a couple homes. I couldn't put them in my name because of tax IRS reasons. I put them in my mother's name or my sister's name. The cars I put in my name, and I didn't care if they took them or not. Businesses, I owned several businesses. I owned gas stations. I owned restaurants. I owned discotheques. So I was pretty good in the business world.
Right. So you've got these businesses going. When you had all these businesses going, did you ever figure that these businesses are making enough money, I don't have to do the other thing anymore?
Well, let me say this. At one time in my life there, I got sentenced. I was framed on I got a bum rap for a robbery I didn't commit in
Right.
Belvedere County, Boone County they call it. And it was for an armed robbery that we didn't commit. I just previously, a week before, I beat a case, a truck hijacking case. Dead bang, they caught me on this truck hijacking, me and my partners. And I beat it in court because we owned the farm property that the trailer was on, and the feds got permission from the people who were renting the property to go and look around the property, which they weren't
Authorized
to do that.
Right.
So it was a faulty search warrant.
Oh, so okay.
So in order to wind up out of I was in Niles County, I had to be moved. The case had to be moved to Chicago, Cook County, Chicago. The courthouse there.
Right.
And in doing so, that means that they had to increase my sentence, not the crime, let's say. So that cost me $5,000, and if I would have lost, I would have got more time. But I had to take this chance with the connection I had.
Right.
So we beat the case. And when I walked out of the courthouse, there was two feds there. We brought it to the state level. And I looked at the feds, the two guys, and I said, "Gotcha." And he said, "We'll see." Well, within a week or two, we got framed for an armed robbery out there, as I said, of a supermarket for I think it was $60,000. We had nothing to do with it, but I did find out who done it. And these guys happened to be in jail at the time. Went to jail
Right.
after that robbery at the supermarket. And they admitted to it. But this little county that we were in, I guess they looked at us and said, don't make no difference. These guys are crooks, and we'll put them away anyway. They lied. All the witnesses lied. Everybody lied. And we went to jail. So when I got out of jail, I said I'm going to go legit. Now, I already knew how to shut alarms off. I knew how to do. I was very good as a burglar. So I decided to open up a restaurant, an Italian restaurant. So I purchased the property right across the street from Wrigley Field in Chicago.
Oh, nice location.
Beautiful location. If I had it today, it'd be worth $50 million.
Yeah.
I purchased it for $30,000. Me and another guy, an ex-cop. No, he wasn't a cop yet. He became a cop, let's say. And I took him in as a partner, and because he had a borrowing power, and we bought it from a cab company that was there. Actually, I muscled the cab company out of it. I told them what I was going to give them for the property, and they need to take it. And they took it. So we wound up with this property, and was doing very well. I built a building, mind you, with another guy. Legitimately build this building. Started going with it. We were making good money, and then the cops started showing up. They didn't like the idea of me being legit, believe it or not. Seriously. I don't know what their problem was, but every other night my windows would get broken there. Every other night. So you run out of insurances. So I laid there with a gun, everything. I didn't know what I was doing. And I tried. I laid inside the place. I laid on the roof. I did everything I could do to catch him. So whoever it was knew my routine.
Right.
So I said, I sold the place with my partner. We sold it. He gave me $30,000. I walked away from it. Like I said, I'd be worth $30 million today.
Right.
And I opened up a big discotheque in Schiller Park, River Grove, actually, in Chicago. And it was a beautiful disco. Well, I had a partner there, too. This place was owned by Joe Pepitone and another guy, Jolly Greeting Cards, and another guy that owned a glass frame place.
Right.
And I sort of muscled them. I gave them $15,000 for the place. But at the time, I was told by the one partner that this guy's name was James Garrett. And he told me, he says, listen, he says, the liquor license is in my name. He said, and this place is on the muscle right now. He said, I just want you to know before you take it over. I said, who's got it? He said, Louis the Mooch. I said, Louis got this place. He said, yeah, we give him $1,600 a month. He said, no kidding. I said, well, I put an end to that. So I went and seen Joe Lombardo, who was my boss.
Right.
And I told him, and he said, I'll pull Louis off of it right away. And so I wound up with this disco, and we were doing great. So one day, my partner, James, decides he wants to have a Las Vegas night in there. And we got the permits. He got the permits. He did everything legitimate. We opened up the doors for Las Vegas night, and within 3 hours, they raided the place. And there was a couple guys sitting at the bar that were connected, along with me, but they didn't arrest them. They let them go, and they arrested me and 60 patrons.
For what?
Illegal gambling.
Even though you had a permit?
Yep. And I couldn't believe it. So here we are, 60 people in a lockup, and I'm thinking, I was set up here.
Yeah.
And I figured who set me up. I wind up putting it together later, Louis the Mooch, an outfit guy.
Right.
So, you know, to me, he's a rat, right? Set me up. So we beat the case in court because we caught the two policemen conspiring in the hallway what to say in front of the jury. And, you know, they're not supposed to say what their testimony was.
Right.
Well, we caught them, and they threw the case out. But I had to make bond for 60 people. You know, and that's a lot of money you got to put out. Within that while, Tony Spilotro was coming in and out of town, and he'd always come to my place. And when he was there, he'd load up the place because everybody wanted to kiss his butt.
Right.
So I told him, Tony, when you leave town, I'm going to make a plastic statue out of you where your head bobs up and down when people come in the door. They'll think you're here. And he's laughing. You don't get smart. Don't get cute. So anyway, we wind up having to sell the place. And Tony kept on pursuing me to move to Vegas. And I eventually did.
We're going to come back and talk about the move to Vegas after we hear a word from our sponsor. But the one question I have before we go is your original restaurant that was across from the ballpark?
Yeah.
Is it still there, or is it long gone?
What's there now is they sell T-shirts. It's a novelty place.
But the building's there.
The building's there, yeah.
Wow.
We were able to park 16 cars on there, and a lot of people who went to the ball game. And at the time, you charged $10 a car. That's cheap. Now they probably charge $50 a car to park there. So we're charging $10 a car to put 16. That's put that money in my pocket.
Sure.
So they got, I think there's 82 games over there. They got a lot of games at Wrigley Field. So you put that together, it's a lot of free money. I thought it was free. I didn't like to pay the IRS.
It's referred to as, we refer to it as soft money.
Soft money.
Okay, we'll be right back, Frank. This is Stephen Jacobs with the Jacobs Ladder Show, and we'll be right back in 2 and 2.
There's eating out and there's dining. Fine dining at the Barrymore. At the Barrymore, you dine on gourmet food in an elegant setting with outstanding service for a fraction of what you would expect. The Barrymore is located in the Royal Resort at 99 Convention Center Drive. You can experience the Barrymore Sunday through Thursday from 5:30 p.m. to 10 p.m. and on Friday and Saturday from 5:30 p.m. to 11 p.m. And on Friday and Saturday, there's live entertainment at the Barry. For reservations, call 702-407-5303. And if you really want to take a look at this elegant restaurant before you arrive, go to www.barrymorelv.com. That's www.barrymorelv.com. Barrymore's. It's more than eating out. It's dining.
The Ultimate Classic Rock Concert Experience is back in Vegas. Raiding the Rock Vault is the story of classic rock performed by members of some of the greatest rock bands in history. Raiding the Rock Vault is a 2-hour classic rock concert experience that transports the audience from the 1960s to the 1980s with the Rolling Stones to Who, The Doors, Led Zeppelin, Jimi Hendrix, The Eagles, Queen, AC/DC, Deep Purple, Van Halen, Journey, Free, Aerosmith, and more. This is a fully live concert experience featuring a stunning light show, video screens, actors, DJ, narrator, and high-quality concert sound production in the famous showroom at the LVH Hotel and Casino. Written by Grammy Award-winning producer David Kirschenbaum and musician and producer John Payne of Asia, the concert features an all-star band. Howard Leese guitar, Doug Ulrich guitar, Robin McCauley lead vocals, John Payne lead vocals and bass, Paul Shortino lead vocals, Jay Schillen drums, Andrew Freeman lead vocals, and Michael T. Ross keyboards. Raiding the Rock Vault shows are Fridays through Tuesdays, 8 p.m. at the LVH. For tickets, go to lvh.com or call 1-800-222-5361. And remember to like Raiding the Rock Vault on Facebook. It's all rock and roll, baby.
And welcome back to the Jacobs Ladder Show. This is Stephen Jacobs, and this segment is brought to you by the Las Vegas Distillery. This distillery is the very first distillery ever in this state of Las Vegas. It's at 7330 Eastgate Road, Suite 100 in Henderson, Nevada. Their number is 702-629-7534. Go in there and tell them that Carolyn and Stephen sent you from the Jacobs Ladder Show. You walk right into the distillery. It's all been handmade. It's a beautiful place, and they have all kinds of liquors. Okay. Anyway, Frank, we're in Chicago, and we've had the restaurant, we've had the disco. Everybody's hassling you. You're trying to do some kind of a straight line, and they're just not letting you have it. So.
Well, that just provoked me more, and which made me go back into robbing again. Now, pertaining to the Chicago outfit, I was always connected to these guys because when you grow up in a neighborhood like that, you become a product of your environment.
Sure.
So I knew what to do and what not to do, who to respect, who not to respect. So I became very close with them. And I really became much closer. See, Tony always wanted to be a made guy, and eventually he became a made guy. And he always wanted to take me with him on that journey, and I fought him. I resisted him. And he told me, this is the way to go, and I told him, I don't want to be hooked up with these guys. I want to do what I want to do. And he says, you'll still be able to. You still got to kick in money when you do scores anyway. What's the difference? Well, I was stubborn. I didn't want to do it. So and I was hanging with these two guys, which is now known as the M&M murders.
Okay.
That's McCarthy and Morelia. And I was stealing with these two guys. And they had a problem in a place in Chicago. This guy, Frank Cullotta, owned it, which I think he was related to Paul the Waiter, Rica. And these two brothers ran the place, the Scavo brothers. So one of my partners, Billy McCarthy, was in there one night, and he had a fight with the two Scavo brothers. Now, he knew them because we're all from Grand and Ogden originally. Well, he was drunk, and they beat the shit out of him, and they threw him out of the place. So he come to me, and he told me this and that, and he says he wanted to kill him. And I said, Billy, it's just a fight. He said, well, I'm going to try to go back in there again with Jimmy. And I said, all right. So him and Jimmy went in there. And, of course, they went in there with bad intentions. And they both got the shit beat out of them and thrown out of the place. So now they come back to me. Now they want to kill the Scavo brothers. So they asked me if I was in. Now, don't forget, these are my partners. And I said, yeah, I'll do what you want. I said, but we might get a lot of repercussions out of this. This is an alpha-connected joint now. And you got to get an okay before you whack somebody. Nobody's going to know. I said, okay. So we went out there 3 times to shoot the Scavo brothers. But each time we went out there was a waitress that was accompanying them when they went to their car. And they left with her. So the 4th time, I was bowling in a bowling alley with this lady, Debbie, or girl, Debbie. And Billy came in, and he said, we're going to go out there tonight. You ready to go? I said, well, I got to get rid of Debbie. And he said, no, don't worry about it. Where's the guns? I said, they're in my garage where I always leave them. My garage was close to this place, the Black Door, where the Scavo's brothers worked. So they left. Billy left. So I told the girl, come on, let's take a ride. We'll go to a motel. And the motels at that time were on Manheim Road, and that's where the Black Door was. So we pull into the gas station. She had a little Triumph, one of those little Triumph cars. Right. And I heard a car, boom, 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 boom. And I looked over at the light, and I could tell it was our work car. A work car is a car with fictitious plates and a hopped-up engine, and you use it to steal it.
And it's called a what?
A work car.
A war car.
Work. Yeah, work.
Work car.
You go to work with it?
Okay, I got it, work car.
So I hear the car, and I look, and I see them. They don't spot me, and they go around the corner. I don't tell her what I'm looking at or what I'm seeing, but I'm thinking, well, maybe the girl's not there tonight. They might get lucky. So in the morning we wake up, we're in the car leaving the motel, and I hear a radio thing, just killing. 2 men and a woman were gunned down in Elmwood Park with Tommy guns. They used it they said Tommy guns. And I said, oh, Jesus. I said, man, there's going to be a problem. Elmwood Park's an outfit town. The outfit runs that town. So I didn't say nothing. I kept my mouth shut. But I knew that all the outfit guys knew that I hung with these brothers and these 2 guys, and if they ever found out, they were going to take us all. So I kept my mouth shut. So I seen Billy. I told Billy to meet me, and I met him, and I said, what'd you do with the guns? He said, well, I threw them away. We got a rumble. I said, you should have killed them people in that town. He said, we didn't do it. Somebody else did it. That's it, I said. I didn't want to say no more now. I figured this guy didn't want to tell me. So I walked away from it. 3-4 days later, Tony comes knocking on my door. Tony Spilotro with one of my other partners, Richie Gorman. And he said, he needs to talk to me. We go down to the basement, and he tells me, he says, I saved your life. I said, what do you mean you saved my life? He said, well, they know that Billy and Jimmy are responsible for the Scavos and that girl, and they think you were there too. Now, I told them you weren't there. I put my neck on the line for you. You got to tell me the truth. Who was with them? I said, I don't know what you're talking about. And he kept it up, and he kept it up, and he said, Frankie, he said, I'm telling you, they will kill you if you don't tell me. You got to tell me. I said, there was only Jimmy and Billy there. I said, that was it. I says, how do you know? I said, because they come and got the guns that same night. And I thought that was going to be the end of it. And he says, okay, you got no problems. He's all straighten it out. I said, okay. The next day he calls me, he says, you got to meet me. I met him by the bowling alley, the same bowling alley I was bowling at that night with, when Billy come over there. He says, you got to make a phone call. I said, to who? He says, to Billy. You got to have him meet you at the North Avenue. It's on North Avenue in Melrose Park, I believe. It's called the Chicken House. Have him meet you there. He says, tell me you got something come up. So he follows me to the payphone. I call up Billy. His wife answers the phone. She's, hi, Frank, all that bullshit. Let me speak to Billy. He gets on the phone. He says, listen, I got to talk to you about something that's really important. We can make a few dollars. At the time, we weren't worried about wiretaps on these payphones. And he says, okay. He says, what time? I said, 8 o'clock. I'll meet you at the Chicken House. So that night, before 8 o'clock, Tony wouldn't let me go. He kept me by his side all that while. So he said, now you got to go get the work car. You got the work car because Billy knows what you drive. Meet me at Howard Johnson's on North Avenue. I said, okay. So at 7:30, I pull up to Howard Johnson. Tony's parked in a parking lot with this guy, Saint. We call him Saint. His name was Louis Encero, who was a driver for Joey Aiuppa. And Joey Aiuppa was the boss. So Saint's in the car, and I knew Saint because I had stole with him previously. So Tony gets out of the car, and he comes over to me, and he says, sit with Saint. But Tony didn't know that I had a gun in my waistband in back of me because I still didn't trust what was going on. So I got in the car with Saint. Tony took off with my car. Well, I knew where he was going. He was going to park it by the Chicken House, and Billy would think I was there and go into the Chicken House. So I sit in the car with Saint. Saint pulls out a gun out of a stash, and I got a gun, and we're real quiet, just sitting there sort of looking at each other out the side of our eyes, who's going to make the first move. And it took about a half hour. Then Tony pulls up, and he jumps out of the car. He says, everything went good. Here's your car. He says, I'll talk to you later. I'll tell you everything that happened. Him and Saint jump in the other car, and they leave. I knew they were heading towards Cicero. That's where the boss, a lot of bosses lived out of Cicero, Illinois. So next day, or a couple days later, Tony comes up to me and he tells me, boy, that was a tough Irishman. He said, what we talk about now, he said, we'll never talk about again. He said, we put his head in the, he said, we beat him for hours, put his head in the vice, popped his eye out of his head. He finally told us that Jimmy was the only guy with him. He said, now we got to go get Jimmy. He said, I want you to tell you something, please. Whatever you do, don't tip off Jimmy. He said, because we got to get this guy. He said, all right. Do you know that night I run into Jimmy in his restaurant in Grand and Harlem called the Colony House? Jimmy was with a girl, and he sees me. Hey, how you doing? This and that. Hey, Jimmy, I haven't seen you in a week or two. Yeah, I've been busy, all that baloney. I said, have you seen Billy? I had to say it, and he said, no, I haven't seen it, but you know the way Billy is. I said, yeah, but Billy usually keeps in contact, doesn't he? He said, yeah. He said, but, he's flaky. He said, okay. I walk away. 2 days later, they do scoop up Jimmy. But there was some events that happened in between that I don't want to get into right now because it's too long.
Okay.
About other guys that got busted,
right.
And they do get Jimmy, and they beat the shit out of him, and torture him, and not really torture him, just they punched him in his voice box. Then they threw him in the trunk of the car, and they were going to bring him to where Billy was, and they had a follow-up car. And just like you seen in the movie Goodfellas, Jimmy pulls the lights out of the taillight, things out of the plug. So Tony's in the follow-up car, and he radios with the walkies to Saint, your taillights went out, pull over. Saint pulls over. When they open up the truck, Jimmy jumps out. And now he was cuffed, mind you. He jumped out. I don't know how he supposedly got around them cuffs. And they grabbed him, and they threw him back in the trunk, and they beat him up more. And then he told him, please, if you're going to kill me now, I forgot it was strangulation or cut my throat. And because my wife will collect the insurance. He was thinking about his wife.
Right.
So they fulfill his wishes, and then they put both guys in the trunk, and they put them on the south side of Chicago. That's how Tony really got his bones. He made his bones. And that's how I became more of a part of the outfit, because now they could trust me. I was one of them. And that's the way it went.
Frank, we're going to take a quick break right now. We'll be right back in 2 and 2. This is Stephen Jacobs with the Jacobs Ladder Show. We'll be right back in 2 and 2.
Let me introduce you to the Las Vegas Distillery. It is the first artesian craft distillery in the history of Nevada. They manufacture in the traditional way from grain to bottle. Their handcrafted spirits include vodka, gin, rum, whiskey, bourbon, moonshine, and the house specialty created in Las Vegas called the Rumski, a blend of rum and whiskey. The Las Vegas Distillery uses grains grown in Nevada by Winnemucca Farms. They distill in small batches and are an open distillery. Come and take a tour Monday through Saturday at 7330 Eastgate Road, Suite number 100 in Henderson. You can go to their website, www.lasvegasdistillery.com. Support our local businesses. Remember the Las Vegas Distillery for your events, office, and private parties. Think local, drink local. The Las Vegas Distillery.
There's eating out and there's dining. Fine dining at the Barrymore. At the Barrymore, you dine on gourmet food in an elegant setting with outstanding service for a fraction of what you would expect. The Barrymore is located in the Royal Resort at 99 Convention Center Drive. You can experience the Barrymore Sunday through Thursday from 5:30 p.m. to 10 p.m. and on Friday and Saturday from 5:30 p.m. to 11 p.m. And on Friday and Saturday, there's live entertainment at the Barrymore. For reservations, call 702-407-5303. And if you really want to take a look at this elegant restaurant before you arrive, go to www.barrymorelv.com. That's www.barrymorelv.com. Barrymore's. It's more than eating out. It's dining.
And welcome back. This is Stephen Jacobs with the Jacobs Ladder Show, and I'm here with Frank Cullotta. He's got a new book out called Frank Cullotta, Hole in the Wall Gang in My Own Words. He will be, by the way, at the Barrymore, which you just heard about, at 99 Convention Center Drive there in the Royal Resort. Barrymore is a great place. And Frank's going to be there February the 1st. That's Saturday, February the 1st. He'll be starting to sign books until about 5:30, so you might want to get down there. Frank, can they buy the book from you down there as well, I assume?
Absolutely.
Okay. And if you can't make it down to Barrymore and you don't live in the city, you live someplace else, you can go to Amazon.com, and you can buy his book on Amazon. And there's another place. Where's the other place, Frank?
Houdini Press.
Houdini Press.
In Las Vegas.
In Las Vegas. You can buy it there. So...
even on my webpage.
Yeah, and you have a webpage.
Yes, I do.
And what's the webpage?
HoleInTheWallGang.org.
HoleInTheWallGang.org, and you can also order it there. Okay, it's an interesting book. Frank gave me one autographed, and I'll tell you something. There's some very interesting pictures in the center because he's got a lot of pictures because of his association with the movie Casino, which he also played a character in that as well. So Frank, you got hooked up with Tony, and at this point, what does Tony say? We're going to Vegas, or?
No, he approached me several times about going to Vegas, and I kept on turning him down. And he said, listen, I had a nickname. They called me Brahma. He used to call me Brahma.
Brahma?
Brahma, like the Brahma bull. So I told him, Tony, I don't want to go, and he says, listen, I need you. I need somebody to watch my back.
Right.
He says, that's a little town. He says, there's not many people I could trust out there. So I said, well, let me consider it a little longer. Then the bust at the lounge, like I told you, the Spankies, that was the
Right.
disco I had. Then Joe Lombardo approaches me. Joe Lombardo, was actually Tony's boss.
Right.
And my boss. And the only reason why is because Joe was in Chicago. So Joe says, you got to go out there with the little guy. Me and Tony, that's what we refer to him as, the little guy.
Right.
And he says, he needs you, so make your move. And then I knew I had to go. So I prepared myself, and I didn't call Tony and tell him I was on my way because he already knew. And I drove out there. I took some little broad with me in the car because she wanted to move to Vegas. And the first stop I made was at the Gold Rush, and Tony was standing in front talking to Herbie Blitzstein. So I pull up with the little broad in the car, and Tony said, where'd you pick her up at? And I said, I brought her on. I needed company on the road. He said, well, dump her and come back here. We need to talk. Get rid of her. And I said, all right. So I brought her to her mother's house, and I went back there and met Herbie and Tony at the Golden Steer. And we talked a little bit, and Tony ran Herbie out of there because he didn't want Herbie to hear everything, Tony was the kind of guy, he didn't let the left hand know what the right hand was doing or vice versa, So he told me what he actually wanted me to do in Vegas while I was there, mainly to keep my eye on cheaters in casinos, to make sure nobody tried to harm him, and to watch Lefty Rosenthal. He said, because Lefty was sort of like losing his mind out here, His head was growing larger than his body. Lefty was running the Stardust at the time. So I says, yeah, no problem. He said, where are you going to live? And I said, I'll probably get a place. I'm thinking of the Marie Antoinette. And he said, oh, that's a good place. So I did get that spot. And then as we talked more and more, Tony, throughout the week or 2 weeks, he told me that he asked me, could you get a crew of guys that aren't connected to the Chicago outfit, that are connected to you? He said, because I want somebody distant from them, and I don't want them communicating with me. I want you to be the in-between guy. But I want these guys to work for you on the orders I give you. And I said, okay. I said, but Tony, these guys got to earn. He said, I'm giving you the okay to rob houses out here, stick up joints, do what you want to do. He says, if it's a big score, large, like anything over 20, he said, I want 20%. I said, no problem. I don't have a problem with it. And he says, anything under, he says, you guys cut it up. He said, that will be their way of working, shooting a free pass to work out here. So I put a crew together. I got some guys together. I got him. I thought he was probably one of the best burglars in the world, Leo Gardino. And then I pull out this Larry Newman, who was, I call him a serial killer. He worked for me also. And we hooked up with this guy, Ernie DeVito, who was a friend of ours by the name of Joey DeFranzo, whose brother was an outfit boss in Chicago, Johnny No-Nose DeFranzo. And
Frank, I hate to interrupt you at this point, but this actually what you're describing is the Hole in the Wall gang, correct?
That is the Hole in the Wall gang.
And that's what your new book's about. Frank, we ran out of time. We got so much to talk about. You got to come back and do another hour with us.
I certainly will.
Okay. Thank you so much, Frank. I really appreciate it. This
pleasure.
is Stephen Jacobs with the Jacobs Ladder Show. And following me will be Miss Carolyn, and she is going to be talking to Miss Cece Spencer, okay? Take care, and we'll see you in a few minutes.
Views and opinions expressed on this program were those of the hosts and guests and did not necessarily reflect those of Vegas All Net Radio, its affiliates, or its parent company.